Hey guys, let us talk a little bit about learning array number 5. Um, it's supposed to run from October 1st to October 12th, and this is kind of the gist of what is going to be completed in that time frame. We've already shared the information for the lesson plans and the units, but I want to talk a little bit about this natural disaster. Um, First, you've got a sign-up sheet, and Rebecca and I attempted to put together kind of a comprehensive list of things that have happened in the last, I don't know, 5-10 years. Some much more recent than others. The car wildfires in California, Hurricane Harvey, um, the one that just hit South Carolina, North Carolina, the fire at Hartsfield International Airport. So any of these will work for what this assignment's going for. And you just get to choose whichever one of these is most interesting to you. Now, we do have a couple of spots down here at the bottom. If you are interested in one that's not on the list, just run it by Rebecca or I, and we'll give you some feedback. But this, like I said, this is pretty comprehensive. So what you're going to do with that, you've gotten lots of experience in creating web pages, but you're going to construct one that is dedicated to explaining this natural disaster. I'll use interchangeably disaster, calamity, event, just because it all means the same thing, and it kind of depends on the context. So for this web page, obviously there's no information at the top, but we've got some questions put together that hopefully will help guide this for you. If you know, you've noticed we haven't done traditional research papers or any of that, because I think that's not as meaningful and it's not something you can as readily use in your classroom. So what we've done here is basically put together a list of 10 or 11 questions that we think at the very minimum will be something you'll address. So obviously you're going to include what is the disaster, all the details about it. This is more of a narrative. But then I want you to explain a little bit about why you think it's relevant to your community. How can you make connections between that and your own community? And then societal implications. Consider the culture. Consider the economy. Consider which group of people this affects and is more detrimental for. There's a lot that can come to this. And if you notice, it is a little bit vague because we want to see what you come up with. We want to understand where you're coming from on this. And then in most of these cases, there is some way that you can use technology to either solve the problem, have prevented the problem. So what we want you to do is kind of talk a little bit about that technology. And then if you're using technology, what advances have been made as a result of this issue, or what advances kind of could happen in the future because of this. And then obviously going on down through, how is science represented? Is this an accurate depiction of science and or technology? And then choose one aspect and how was it developed? What was its original purpose? Why was it developed? This is a good opportunity to create something along the lines of a timeline where maybe you link to other web links that give information about when something was developed, who developed it, to kind of bring in a little bit more of your STEM and your engineering components. And then what were the benefits to society resulting in this new development? And then possibly what negative impacts has this had on society? And we're on number 9 now. What concepts could be used to educate the public regarding the technology? So with this one, obviously you could expand it to what topics, what concepts from science, engineering, math, community development, planning, basically just kind of a literacy of what this event is about, how often it can happen, and what it means for a community. And then obviously engineering, protect more about these disasters. That's very connected to the technology piece. And then what mathematical principles can be connected to this event, and how would you make it meaningful for your students? I'm not a math teacher, but I can see a lot of connections to probability, to with tsunamis, water displacement. There's countless ways that this could actually connect. So it's kind of up to you to let you choose where to go with that. And currently there's 2 websites that students have created in the past that are basically a mini version of what you guys are doing. We're expecting a little bit more out of yours because we want you to connect all of the components for STEM. But you can actually go in and explore these, and I'll probably add a few other ones. All right, so here's the rubric that we've put together. Some of them have a few more details, like this one. We've got, is it organized? Is it student friendly? It may shake out like this, and it may not. But for the most part, this is about a 40-point web page. And obviously, we want these components to it. It needs to be more heavily focused on education. This will be, you've got a couple more days on this one to get things finished. So, use it wisely. We're going to want some research-based articles. You can treat that as ones addressing education. You can treat it as ones addressing the STEM concepts. It's up to you, but just make sure you have, 2 or 3. I think somewhere we may have mentioned 1, but I'll add another one in there. So within your website itself, you want at least 4 pages. I think that I know you've created them before, but that gives you a little more practice in inserting web pages, embedding videos, doing all of those things, as it will be beneficial for your students. So if you notice, the heftiest part of this is the educational implications. So 2 ideas from this of how you could use it to teach STEM. Links to educational videos, suggestions on questions that you'd ask your students to spark dialogue, to spark action. And then obviously a very important part is, how do you encourage student engagement for ELL students, for students with disabilities, for minority populations who may not be familiar with some of these things. So try to address all types of learners in this. And then one thing that might be beneficial for you is to go back and look at some of those websites that you've explored and find a lesson or 2 that maybe you could connect to this as a springboard. Obviously, those won't count for your individual final project lessons, but it's a good start to kind of get you putting ideas together as to how you're going to be able to teach it at some point. So this is just the intro to the section. Obviously, video, images, music, visual prompts, anything that's going to help your kids and whoever else is reading this understand what you're doing. And this will be shared with your classmates. It'll also be linked on your own website. And hopefully this will be a good springboard for some of the new things you're going to do in the class.